You know, some of the most profound books ever written were never meant to be books at all. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going inside the secret, private journal of a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And just to give you a taste of what this book is all about, listen to this line he wrote to himself. "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Whoa, right away you can feel the urgency. This isn't some dusty academic philosophy. This is a high-stakes guide for how to live, right here, right now. And that really gets to the wild paradox of this whole thing. The guy writing this, Marcus Aurelius, was literally the most powerful man on the planet, the absolute ruler of the Roman Empire. But this text, it's just a collection of his private thoughts, his notes to self, his personal struggles, stuff he never ever wanted anyone else to read. So that brings up the big question we're going to tackle. Why? Why would a guy who seemingly had it all, power, wealth, you name it, need to write a book like this? What was going on in his head and in his world?
Well, to get that, you have to understand the world he was living in, because his time as emperor was anything but calm and peaceful. He was dealing with a constant storm of crises, just an unbelievable amount of pressure that would have absolutely crushed most people.
Just look at this timeline. It's insane. The second he becomes emperor in 161, a war kicks off in the east. A few years later, his own troops bring back a plague that just devastates the empire. Then, the northern frontier explodes into years of brutal warfare. And, as if all that wasn't enough, in 175, one of his most trusted generals betrays him and tries to steal the throne. It was just one disaster after another, non-stop.
And these weren't some far-off wars he was just hearing about, especially the wars on the German frontier. Marcus was there, on the front lines, leading them himself. And it was ugly. We're talking about a slow, bloody, grinding fight. He even writes in his journal about seeing severed hands and heads. This was deeply personal and horrific stuff.
And then the plague. I mean, you can't overstate this. This was an absolute catastrophe for the whole empire. We don't have perfect numbers, but some sources make it sound almost apocalyptic. The death toll was massive, society was in chaos, and Marcus had to manage all of this while fighting a war hundreds of miles away. And on top of everything, the betrayal. Just try to imagine this for a second. Avidius Cassius was his guy, his top general, a war hero he trusted to run the entire eastern half of the empire. And then one day, you get the news. He's declared himself emperor. The shock, the personal sting of that, and the terrifying prospect of a civil war, it's just unimaginable. So, war, plague, betrayal. How do you even begin to cope with that? This is where philosophy stops being a boring class and becomes a survival tool. For Marcus, the answer was Stoicism, and he used it like an operating system for his mind to handle all of this chaos. Now, the core of this whole system is a big idea called the logos. Basically, the Stoics believed that the universe isn't random chaos. It's governed by a universal, rational principle. You could call it nature, or providence, or even God. The point is, there's an underlying order to everything. And the crucial takeaway is that everything that happens for a reason within this larger rational plan. So, to live in tune with this logos, Stoicism gives you this really practical three-part toolkit. First, the discipline of perception. That means seeing things as they are, objectively, without freaking out and adding your own judgments like, "This is the worst thing ever!" Second, the discipline of action. That's all about acting for the common good, doing the right thing, and treating people with justice. And third, the discipline of will. This is about accepting the things you can't control, trusting that they're part of that bigger, rational plan. This was his framework for staying sane.
Okay, so we've got the huge problems he was facing, and we've got the philosophical toolkit he used to deal with them. But how did he actually apply it day to day? Well, that's where the journal comes in.
Now, to really get this, we have to clear up a major misunderstanding. The Meditations is not a diary. He's not writing, "Dear Diary, today the Germans attacked again." It's also not a formal book he was planning to publish. Think of it more as a workbook, a series of spiritual exercises. It was a tool he used to remind himself of his principles, to coach himself through tough times. It is quite literally a self-help book written by the self for the self.
And you can see him doing it right here. Imagine dealing with that betrayal from his general. He writes this short, powerful command to himself. The best revenge is not to be like that. It's so simple, right? Don't sink to their level. Control what you can control, your own actions. That's the discipline of action right there on the page.
Here's another great one that shows his style. Straight, not straightened. What in the world does that mean? Well, he's reminding himself to be good from the inside out, by choice, not because someone is forcing him to be good. It's about having an internal character that's solid, not one that's just bent into shape by outside pressure. It's a tiny little phrase, like a mental trigger to keep him on track.
So the secret journal, full of these private coaching sessions, was never meant for our eyes. How on earth did it end up becoming one of the most famous and beloved books in the world? This is really the story of the emperor's accidental gift to all of us.
I think its power really comes from how raw and authentic it is. This wasn't propaganda, it was real. And it's a miracle it even exists. It survived by the absolute thinnest of threads. We might owe this entire book to a single copy made in the 10th century. And the reason it endures is that it offers a timeless toolkit for dealing with the exact same stuff we all deal with: stress, adversity, annoying people, you name it. It's no surprise that it's been a favorite of leaders for centuries. It's just a deeply human look at a powerful person struggling with universal problems.
At the end of the day, Marcus Aurelius was writing to himself to find some sense of peace and purpose in a world that was completely chaotic. So the real question isn't just about a Roman emperor from 2,000 years ago, it's about us. When you look at his struggles and the tools he used, what's the one lesson you can take from his journal and apply to your own chaotic world?